All right,
Field.
there we are again.
You disappeared on me, Field.
Yeah, sorry, I thought you had disappeared, but I had disappeared.
One of us has to disappear.
Yeah, yeah. So you were just talking about Tammy and having a clearing conversation, but that backlogs into conversation types, and that backlogs into why are we having this conversation regarding talking about AI and a lunar cycle.
Exactly. So, what do you think would be a good structure to explore a theme? Do you have any ideas in terms of some other structure or something that, how would you approach learning about artificial intelligence?
Yeah, structured learning isn't a strong suit of mine. I tend to go on intuition and follow my nose on sort of through different associations and it intuitively, excuse my stuttering. But yeah, structured conversations. I like what you're presenting in terms of like even those 5 conversation types that you brought up.
Mm-hmm.
Seem pretty simple and to the point, I think.
Mm.
I don't know. The biggest thing is working in the past together when we've sat around the table and have had different processes trying to use the tools. Is we start to get into dialogue and it starts to abstract to the point where we lose track of the actual tools that we're using or that we're trying to learn.
Mm.
And much is the same way as, say, meditating on sensation. It takes a great deal of attention to keep my awareness focused on my sensations, because my mind has a habit of all of a sudden I'm off in some story somewheres and 10 minutes goes by and all of a sudden I come to and say, holy shit, I was actually sitting here meditating and I've been off on this thought stream for 10 minutes. So in a group, we can go off on tangents and forget what our point of reference or why we're doing it. And so in trying to learn something new, it takes a certain amount of attention and effort.
Mm-hmm.
And so in that sense, keeping it fairly simple, just like learning an instrument or something like that, you're not learning grade 12 musical languages. You just simply, how do I hold the instrument? What's my left hand doing? What's my right hand doing? So keeping it fairly simple.
Right.
I think in the beginning, if that's the objective, is to start introducing the tools and to expand the toolbox, as it were, or so the inflow matrix or the school of conscious communication and what tools are available for that process of learning.
As soon as the theme was chosen, it's like the theme is the content.
Yeah.
And I've been playing with structure all the time and almost structure of the structure, right? So you never even get to the fruit of the matter. And so artificial intelligence as a prime reference point in the center, as any theme would be, and then everything else is referencing that. And so it draws everything together. And so what I'm hoping will happen is that each of us who is participating in this will be sort of given a perspective of the whole, and we will be holistically approaching the theme in a manner which I don't think has been done before, or at least hasn't been done in this way. I mean, I know there's integrative, holistic approaches out there.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty excited that now seems to be the time. I mean, we've done a lot of different testing, and we usually based it upon a question, right? We would base it upon question you would bring into this circle. And now it's like longer term, a theme that's going to change the nature of how we interact. And there's a lot of very, intelligent people out there who've spent a lot of time diving into this subject, and I would like to bring them in. And we can get like, I think 8 people in here, or even 10 or 12. So it's a very
yeah, depending on the subject matter, depending on people's familiarity with the tools, and people's, whether they're familiar with the actual tools, if they have a inner reservoir of considering the world in which they live through different lenses, that they'll have resource material from which to reference to get an idea of the tools and how they can be applied more quickly.
I mean, I think even without the tools, there's a great conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
And I believe that in the little research that I've been doing, like a lot of the artificial intelligence these days is being used by companies to, sort of do customer data analysis so they can position whatever they're bringing to them. It's very, I think, quite basic. Not to say that it isn't, very sophisticated what they're doing, but I believe that there's a whole new arena of artificial intelligence that is not perhaps being explored as much in relationship to collective intelligence of humans. I think, they focus on the machine side perhaps first, rather than the human side first, and then looking at how the machine side can help that. And so that's what I would like to do, because I've seen so many movies lately and shows, and they all have a very dark future. They all have a very negative interpretation of artificial intelligence. It's usually that as soon as the AI gets consciousness, it decides to destroy humanity. And so it feeds into the fear, it feeds into, this futuristic portrayal that they're trying to do, whoever they is, but, those who don't seem to have a great, care for our species. And so they're maintaining this fear matrix. And so I believe that artificial intelligence is this year is going to take off. Like it's like a lot of the pieces and parts have come together. And so I think as a first theme, it's going to set the tone for us. And then it'll sort of like the next theme will sort of come to awareness.
Yeah, I wonder, in terms of artificial intelligence, it's like there's 2 terms. What is artificial and what is intelligence? And those 2 terms could be explored. What does artificial and what does real mean? And what are the different definitions of intelligence? As we speak about artificial intelligence, we're talking about a computer software that is able to have pattern recognition and develop its ability to recognize certain patterns to fulfill certain agendas or tasks. Like you're saying, can it be used for positive regard or for negative regard? What's the different applications of the artificial intelligence if we come to an understanding of what that definition means? When I look at it, just in terms of what you're saying, like the positive or the negative interpretation, and my own internal musings about artificial intelligence or what artificial intelligence means. I mean, first of all, artificial intelligence for me, it's like there's a distinction between organic intelligence and synthetic intelligence. In the sense of organic intelligence, as regards personal, subjective, internal awareness. What's the word that comes up recently is spectral. that the inner face of awareness is spectral, or spectral in the sense that it reflects. It reflects one's consciousness.
Mm.
So if I come to the spectral domain of the inner screen of my consciousness, if I'm coming with positive, confident regard to that face, the face reflects back to me, say, angels. Whereas if I come to that screen with fear and foreboding and being unsure, that what's reflected back to me is demonic or demons, which is a very simplified exaggeration of the polarity.
Hmm.
But in that regards, whether it's an introspectral screen or if it's the outer world, if we come into the outer world with positive regard and confidence, are we then generally met with positive regard and people that feel comfortable because of our generous, confident, well-meaning demeanor?
Mm.
Whether if I'm in fear and unsure, even if my intentions aren't harmful, the other person might somehow pick up on that fearfulness and therefore question my motivations and my sincerity, and that might put them ill at ease. So that feedback would add to either ill at ease or lead feedback to something that was more confident and copacetic for both people and in the conversation. So in terms of artificial intelligence, which is, for me, is married to virtual reality when it comes to how it will be interfaced with
Mm-hmm.
by people.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in an interactive virtual space that has a sense of artificial intelligence in that it is reading my behavior as I'm in that space and then responding to my behavior in that space, the same fundamental protocols might be in place to a degree that if I'm angry and aggressive, it might feed to me sports scenarios or whatever, whereas if I'm calm and centered, it might present to me rainbow bears or something. I'm not sure, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. It's just...
Well, I think what you're adding is our emotional nature may dictate how the artificial intelligence interacts with us. And so our whole inner world will be subjectively connected to something. It isn't just our thoughts. It isn't just the mental speaking side. There may be a more organic connection, which is sort of like as you're presenting it, it's very different from, let's say, okay, you've got this negativity within you, and now the AI is going to turn into a killer robot because of that, as opposed to, okay, you've got a negativity within you, and it's going to give something to allow you to express yourself differently in a more positive way, but more in alignment with the energy that's coming through you, which makes sense to me. And
depending on program protocols in that regards, but yeah.
So, I mean, when I started to do research, it seemed to me that there's a huge gap between what the movies are portraying and where we're at, and where science is at, where technology is at, and that, you know, there's a much more positive future linked into artificial intelligence, and I think it's time for us to come out of the woodwork and to leave our caves of research and development, and to start coming into the business world with other people that have been, you know, I would say trapped in certain belief systems, trapped in certain value systems, trapped in certain parameters of thought by the very nature of how business has happened on this planet. And I think both you and I have really stayed away and stayed outside and done our own research and done our own work and not really been influenced by a lot of what most would say is normal reality. And, you know, our own studies in consciousness, our own studies in spirituality, our own studies in our own process. I know that you are a great model for internal process in a very deep way, in a very, I would almost say scientific, where you've been playing in fields, you are the field, that not many people play in. And I'm really looking forward to your dialogue and your interaction in this topic, because as you brought up today on the Facebook stream, that you're, you know, just by the ways your eyes are bugging out right now, you're seeing something, and you need a vehicle to bring your intelligence through, and you need people to listen, and you need groups of people to pay attention to what you've learned. And
yeah, well, in this format of talking to you through a computer screen, and my own ability to track my internal meaning and be able to track what you're sharing with me and be able to track the dialogue, this medium of exchange isn't something that I have a lot of time spent in. You know, with it sitting down at the computer, and then I read text, and I'm able to consider that text and abstract, consider, think, contemplate, look into different resources that I'm inspired to search different resource streams, get new ideas, build a construct, and then share that construct or that idea back within a text stream. It's like I've been developing that capacity and trying to learn how to articulate myself within text, and track the context of the text conversation stream, say in Facebook. I'm not have a huge degree of skill in that area, but it's an area at least that I've been spending more time and try to develop my communication capacity in that regard. Speaking within this medium of video chat, just watching my own awareness, and I feel kind of slow and inarticulate.
It gets worse.
It's a good practice.
It gets worse once you have to watch yourself. We can't escape our own reality.
Yeah.
And whatever this is, it certainly does change when you watch yourself and listen to yourself. And that, to me, is a big part of the learning, where nearly every time I film somebody, there's huge learning when they get to watch themselves. And there's huge learning for me when I get to watch myself. And at some point, I think it really helps in terms of accepting ourselves, because
just relaxing, and because it's a learning curve. It's always a learning curve, and to be relaxed facilitates learning. So it's
well, and when we were growing up, this didn't exist. When we were growing up, this would cost $1 million, and someone else would have to decide whether you and I could chat like this.
Yeah.
And so now, of course, it's free and everyone can do it. So there's millions of people doing it, but we get the chance to sort of do it ourselves, and we become our own media, and we become our own knowledge keepers. And that excites me, because, you know, there's no way that we would get on normal media.
Yeah.
And they would never pay attention to us long enough to even begin to try to understand what we're talking about, because it takes time. It takes years sometimes, right, to really dive into what we've learned and to share with people. And so this is, to me, the beginning of the rest of our lives, in a sense that we've come to this point in time where I believe that each of us and many others have learned something fundamental that the rest of our species needs to learn. And that may sound arrogant, or that may sound like a big statement, but I think when you've done the time and done the research, and then you track the other media, you track the corporate media, and you realize that they don't even touch this stuff. You know, it's so rare, if ever, for them to examine their conversation, their conversational patterns, and how they're slanting their agendas in the conversation as it occurs. I mean, it's getting far more sophisticated now because there's so many people, you know, in alternative media and other sort of spaces that are, you know, have been understanding the framing that is being used, but they never had a chance to bring it to awareness to people. But now, you know, the lenses that we see through, the frames that we put things in, are very apparent in terms of the general collective unconscious, I think. I don't know about very apparent, but it's certainly being spoken about more and more in what I'm tracking in the media. And so I believe that a lot of what we've learned in terms of our own insights into our own patterns and other people's conversational patterns will come through here. And that excites me. But I think we're coming a bit to the end of our chat. It has a certain limit, but I think I have a limit too. This is my, I think, third convo of the day.
Yeah.
And I know you've probably had a long work day. So I want to say, Field, it's great seeing you again. We're back in business. We got no green screen, but we'll deal with that when we can. You know, my green screen caught on fire when my van blew up.
Yeah, that's rotten.
I lost my green screen. It was a nice one. Anyway, so I want to thank you. And I'm going to pop this up and stick it in Captain's Sweep in the Field, and then stick it in the Very Secret Plan too.
Yeah.
And we can, this is the beginning of our dialogue, and I'm hoping to have at least 3 more, maybe 4 individuals, maybe once a week for the next lunar cycle, and ongoing in Facebook and perhaps some other mediums. And then there may be some times where we'll bring groups together and teams together online, and I hope you will participate in that too, if you can have the time.
Yeah, this is your initiative, and it feels good. I appreciate the inclusion, and I look forward to further work with you and development on this stream.
Okay. I love you, my brother.
Yeah, love you.
Great to hear from you and see you, and we shall talk soon.
Okay. Ciao, man.
Okay.